developing today. A bombshell new royal book reveals quite how disgusted the late Queen Elizabeth II was with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in her dying days, especially over the issue of money. Now, this book is by my friend Robert Jobson. It is called The Windsor Legacy, a royal dynasty of secrets, scandal, and survival. It has been serialized on the front page of the Mail this week, but we're going to get the best analysis now by teaming up with Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network. So here's the headline. Let's get into the juice. Revealed what Harry and Meghan did that made the late Queen so furious she hurled her newspaper to the floor. Let's get into it. For the late Queen's generation, tea time was sacrosanct. A pause in the day to reflect and refresh. For the monarch herself, it was also a cherished private time in a life devoted to public service. During COVID lockdowns, Elizabeth II particularly enjoyed her afternoon ritual. Prince Philip had left his retreat in Norfolk to base himself at Windsor Castle, where, much to her delight, he joined her most days for tea. If there was one time any member of the royal family could almost be guaranteed to know what the Queen was doing, it was 5 p.m. So eyebrows were raised when Prince Harry rang her one day while she was having her cup of tea. The Queen was not amused. Indeed, she was clearly irritated, and her grandson was not put through. She may have suspected what he wanted to discuss. Before Harry had left Britain in 2020, the Queen and Prince Charles had arranged to cover security costs for him and his son Archie for a whole year. In addition, Harry's father had offered to assist with household bills and living expenses while the Sussexes settled into their new lives, first in Canada and then in California. But was that enough? Harry seemed to be finding the shift from being a working royal rather harder than expected. Sure enough, he called his grandmother back the following day, though this time not during the sacred hour, and this time she took his call. After hanging up, she sighed and said in front of her staff, "More money." Even the Queen, it seemed, was growing wary of Harry's demands. One matter that did anger her was Meghan's taste for expensive designer clothes. She had looked stunning when 9 months after the royal wedding, she appeared in a custom-made Christian Dior gown during a reception in February 2019 at the British ambassador's residence in Morocco. However, the cost of her wardrobe for the Sussexes' official tour was causing comment back home. Certainly, the estimated £60,000 price tag for the Dior dress drew the Queen's ire when she read about it in the press. She later let Meghan know that such an expensive outfit was an ill-judged choice. Privately, Queen Elizabeth described Harry's behaviour as quite mad. She made it clear to those close to her that she felt let down by the Sussexes' departure, which she saw as short-sighted and a missed opportunity. The Queen had warmly welcomed Meghan, viewing her dual heritage, beauty and communication skills as assets to the family. When everything else fell apart, she publicly wished the couple well. As time went on, however, she tired of their dramatics and ordered that Harry's phone calls be redirected to his father. Brittany, absolutely fascinating insight here from Robert Jobson, who, let's just remember, royal reporting veteran, particularly close to King Charles, but extraordinary that the late Queen didn't even want to speak to Prince Harry, and when she did, and he made these demands and he took the begging bowl, she was clearly livid about it.
She was. And I'm not surprised either that Harry and Meghan were doing this because they initiated this whole Megxit mess and then didn't seem to think through any of the logistics of it and just expected Charles to endlessly pay their bills. And that was just simply impossible. And then when Charles, I think, was hesitating, then they went to the Queen. And the royals are not, let's say, cash rich. They have a lot of land and these sorts of things and tangible assets. But cash is a somewhat limited quantity. This is not a billion-dollar enterprise in many ways. And so it's like Harry and Meghan constantly asking for cash. It's like you guys left the institution, the parameters of the institution, and somehow they want everyone to continue paying their bills as if nothing's happened. And that just simply was impossible. And Charles and the Queen were kind enough to give them a little bit of start money, but he's also somebody with millions of dollars in inheritance. She apparently, I've told many times by her fans, had millions of dollars when she married into the royal family. So, what happened to their money? The reality is, Harry and Meghan are cheap and want everyone else to pay for their lifestyle. And the monarchy went along with it for a while, but they couldn't support him forever. And Harry and Meghan, of course, I think once the cash was cut off, I think that's when the desire for vengeance probably really started to grow in many ways.
Big time. Really shocking details from Robert Jobson, too, about how Harry treated Prince Charles over that period. I need you to do something for me right now. It is free. It is easy. It is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet. And he writes, unfortunately for Harry, Prince Charles had also grown tired of his errant son's rants. After Harry swore at him over the phone one day, and demanded funds, he stopped taking his calls. I'm not a bank, Charles told his inner circle. Long-serving staff who knew Harry well were left in the awkward position of having to make polite excuses when his father wouldn't come to the phone. Now, Brittany, that is quite astonishing, isn't it? Like, you are asking your father, who also at that time happens to be the heir to the throne, to bankroll and fund your life, yet you're swearing at him down the phone? It's not a good play.
No, it's not. And you got to think about it, Dan. Harry was in his mid 30s, closing in on 40s at this point, and he's still swearing at his dad, begging for money. He's a married man in his mid 30s with a family. It is Harry's obligation, Harry's responsibility to pay for his family. It is not his father's job. And his father was kind enough, yes, to give him a little bit. But Charles is so right. He's not a bank. He's not there to just endlessly give them money. And what we've seen in that previous quote as well is that Harry and Meghan were very frivolous with their money and didn't really think. Meghan buying a 60,000 or 60,000 pound Dior dress, I mean, sometimes it's been quoted as $100,000, is absolutely insane as a royal. Catherine, yes, she gets gala gowns, but usually the price range is about 10,000 pounds at the most. She's very, very conscientious. And as a royal, you don't want to seem overly frivolous. You need to look nice, but not totally break the bank either. And Meghan had none of those parameters. And yet, as they were, I'm sure, going through Harry's money and trying to set up all these deals, Meghan still and Harry demanded more. They wanted more from the bank of dad rather than trying to make it on their own. And yes, they have gotten some money now, but I would imagine they're still a little bit just scraping by in some ways.
There's also fascinating detail from Robert Jobson in this bombshell new book, Brittany, about Lilibet the name. Because do you remember this? Harry claimed that the late Queen was so happy, that they'd decided to steal her childhood name. Couldn't have been further from the truth. She was completely disgusted, but this is a great account of what actually happened, Brittany. He writes, a palace source has a different version of events, which is that the Queen first learned of Lilibet's name from the morning press and was so incensed at the affront that she threw the paper to the floor, startling her staff. Later, during one of the Sussex's final UK visits before her death, they skipped a planned tea, that daily ritual so precious to the Queen. What's more, they skipped it without giving her notice. She had requested a special cake. By 5:15 p.m, with no word, she told staff to clear everything away. After the loss of her husband, the Queen spent nearly all her time at Windsor Castle, where she had few visitors. Her days were quiet, her health was rapidly declining, and she was lonely, which just makes it, Brittany, even more despicable that they didn't show up. Okay, so that's so bad. But also decided to purposefully upset her by lying to the world about the naming of Princess Lilibet. who, let's
I
be
mean,
honest, we just call Lily these days because people hate it
mhm.
so much.
Yes, and Harry and Meghan, in so many ways, they played that so horribly. The way they announced it and the way they put words in Queen Elizabeth's mouth. And I remember Queen Elizabeth deliberately went to the BBC to basically say, obviously through the palace staff, that no, she did not approve this. This did not go through her. She did not approve any of this. And it was just so horrible and despicable of Harry and Meghan to steal her childhood nickname, not tell her at all, of course, as well, but just to steal it and like try to act like they cared. But when you see them, obviously, and we just know this from everything, that when they could have had a tea with the Queen, something I'm sure basically nearly everybody in the UK would have loved to be at. I would have loved to have tea with the Queen. They missed it. And they were even so callous, they didn't even give her the dignity of a call to let her know that they weren't going to do it. They are entirely self serving, self obsessed people who just really want to destroy anybody else in their wake. And it's why they have a slew of broken relationships behind them, both family and friends, because they just simply can't think or fathom of anyone else other than themselves. And I think it's horrific how they treated Her Majesty the Queen in the last years of her life. They wanted to make her, and I think everyone else in many ways, just miserable in retribution for how they perceived they were treated. And even though they were given the dignity of attending the funeral, I think in some ways Harry and Meghan should have been barred from attending, or at least at the very least, Meghan, because what they did to Queen Elizabeth is just unfathomable in so many ways.
Well, it is, but Brittany, it was also pretty unfathomable how they then tried to turn once they learned that King Charles and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, were both suffering from cancer, despite slinging the most horrible mud for the years that had preceded that event. And of course, let's be honest, cancer, the onset of cancer can be caused by stress. But Robert Jobson has some really interesting detail on this. He writes, Harry and Meghan sent their well wishes. Neither King Charles nor Catherine responded. A Palisade scoffed at the Sussexes' statement, calling it cynical. After all, just weeks before, the couple had been slinging mud at the royal family and portraying themselves as victims. The king, who'd broken the news of his cancer to Harry in a phone call, had started treatment straight away. He was undergoing chemotherapy and felt a strong need for peace and quiet. The last thing he needed was any drama. Yet without invitation, Harry took it upon himself to fly over to see his father. The king had planned to spend the weekend at Sandringham in Norfolk, so he was irritated at being forced to wait in London until his son arrived. Their meeting was brief, around 30 minutes. Wary of letting Harry prolong it, Charles had prearranged for the meeting to be interrupted with a warning that it was time for a medical procedure. His son left soon afterwards. In fact, there was no procedure scheduled and never had been. Instead, the king flew straight to Sandringham on a helicopter that had been standing by for his delayed journey. I mean, Brittany, the detail there, the colour is just delicious from Robert Jobson.
It really is. I remember when Harry flew out there and it's like it's nice that he's going to support his dad, but it's like, why? And Harry, of course, had this time to, let's say, he could have left the royal family in a very good and positive way, but he decided to burn his bridge on the way out. And the royal family is not obligated to really respond to him. And in their midst of crisis, I'm sure Catherine and William, in many ways, the last person they wanted to talk to at all was Prince Harry and especially his wife, Meghan Markle. I'm sure just from what we've seen, William has basically completely cut them out of his life, has no desire to build back a relationship with them whatsoever. And Harry just doesn't seem to totally get that. And then you have Charles over here saying, yeah, it'd be nice to see my son, but at the same time, I'm ready to leave. And Harry, of course, always thinking about himself. He doesn't try to arrange something with his father. He flies in and basically demands to be seen. And I think it actually would have done Charles a lot of good to say, no, I'm going to Sandringham. You can follow me up there if you want, but this is where I'm going. And when it comes to obviously the stress of something like cancer or anything like that, you want to keep people in your life who all they cause is drama, you just want to keep them as far away as possible. And that's what Charles and William have done, is keep Harry away and all his drama, because Harry, I don't know if he's conscious of it, his life is all drama now. And it's made his life in many ways so miserable, and nobody else wants to be there surrounded by his misery. And so his father and his brother, they're going to lead their own lives, and Harry may ask them to do something from time to time, but I just don't think there will ever be really a good relationship there between any of them.
Brittany, there are some pretty gross out details in this book, though, in regards to Prince Andrew. Let me show you this. Sex, drugs found at a party disgraced Andrew hosted for Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in Sandringham, which is so awkward for the royal family, Brittany, given Sandringham is where Andrew, Mountbatten, Windsor will be living. Now, that's where he's been moved to. But this is Robert Jobson's reporting. Drugs to enhance sexual experiences were found at Sandringham after Andrew hosted a party for paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Bathrooms at the royal property were littered with condoms, lubricants, and drugs called poppers after an event which Andrew later dismissed as a straightforward shooting weekend. The party thrown to mark Ghislaine Maxwell's 39th birthday in 2000 featured and disgraced Andrew's 2019 Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis. The Windsor legacy also repeats the claim King Charles clamped down on his brother's extravagant expenditures, including tens of thousands of pounds on Indian health gurus. Her Majesty, referring to Elizabeth II, waved through huge bills for spiritual advisors who encouraged Andrew to chant Indian mantras. Within weeks of ascending to the throne, King Charles was shocked to receive a £32,000 bill for Andrew's live-in yoga instructor. His younger brother expected the privy purse to pick up the tab, but King Charles intervened. The new monarch wanted to rein in royal expenditure. Brittany, God, crazy stuff all round.
It really is, Dan. Absolutely insane. Obviously, how they treated Sandringham with that party with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is just abominable in many ways. That, staff members were forced to clean up after that mess is, obviously very, very gross. And it's just a reflection of how Andrew had not been reined in for so long. Nobody told him or prevented him from holding a party with these sorts of people. This sort of does go back to the reign of Queen Elizabeth, of course, and Andrew being given free reign. And I think it was so good of Charles, of course, to get some of his first bills from Andrew and like think to himself, I don't want to be paying this. This is ridiculous. Obviously, Andrew chanting Indian mantras probably hasn't helped him all that much. Go to the gym, take a walk, these sorts of things. He doesn't need a live-in yoga instructor. I don't even think he can probably do yoga that well. Question what even that was. But there's just so many things attached to Andrew that just revealed the excess. Obviously, that started, of course, as well with Sarah Ferguson. But the excess of the lifestyle, the arrogance, the entitlement, that definitely has resulted in ruin for Andrew. And so to address that is something that definitely needed to be done. And hopefully we will see Prince William or King William at one point. I think he will do a great job of, again, trying to streamline the monarchy to an extent where those type of actors like Andrew are basically completely out of the system. I think the Wales' kids will be wonderful working royals. And we definitely have an example of Andrew where things can go so wrong.
Yeah, indeed. Brittany, there's also increased focus on Meghan Markle's previous activity with World Vision. This charity now being investigated, and Meghan's antics when it came to World Vision were so revolting, and I think it's actually right that there is more focus on this now. I mean, as the Daily Mail pointed out on X, she demanded first-class tickets, had a makeup team, and brought several suitcases of clothes for her humanitarian trip to Rwanda, as the charity is accused of racism. And here's the reporting in the Mail. Evangelical Christian organisation World Vision is under fire after its British arm was hit with allegations of racism and sexism, which it denies. Nearly a decade after Meghan Meghan's involvement as an ambassador for its Canadian wing ended, as part of her role, the now Duchess of Sussex agreed to be part of a film about World Vision's work building water wells in the African country in January 2016. However, Meghan was allegedly just as interested in self-promotion and used the 4-day visit to be photographed with village children. As royal biographer Tom Bower claimed, each pose was followed by a change of clothing. He claimed the actress insisted on flying to Rwanda first class and being accompanied by Gabor Jurina, a Canadian fashion photographer. Michael Goye, an American hair and makeup stylist, was also listed as travelling with Gabor. Bower claimed that Meghan's demands sent the production budget through the roof, meaning the film's producer, Brenda Seminsky, was forced to drop out. After the shoot, Seminsky reportedly said it was mind-blowing to think that someone had staged a photo shoot in an impoverished African village, adding Meghan had opportunistically orchestrated the trip to pose as a philanthropist. In a post on her now-defunct lifestyle blog, The Tig, she wrote it was sometimes challenging to switch from refugee camps to red carpets, while reflecting on her work with World Vision that included 2 trips to Rwanda and India as a global ambassador. Guiding my heart through the swinging pendulum from excess to lack of access is something challenging, the Duchess reflected, but Bower's scathing account of her Rwandan excursion challenges this sentiment. According to Bower, it was neither Meghan's rising star nor her work with UN Women that helped her land her job at World Vision, but down to her relationship with advertising executive Matt Hassel. I mean, this is truly horrifying stuff, Brittany. And when you look at those pictures in that new light, revealing that she was effectively using it as a photo shoot, the irony is lots of Meghan's new woke pals would say that's been a white savior, Brittany.
They definitely would. And what's interesting to think about this as well is, like, have any of us ever seen this alleged movie that Meghan was a part of? But her behavior here is totally despicable. And you got to wonder in World Vision as well, how in the world they approved her going on this trip with all these sorts of demands. They should have just told her to stuff it. They are a charity. They're not there to kind of indulge her excess for one single trip. But this is very much Meghan Markle. You see and feel the stagedness of the photos that you see. Like, everything looks staged. It looks choreographed. It looks like she's there on a photo shoot. And I've actually been to some very, very rural sections of Africa. And I can tell you right now, the last thing I was thinking about was what I would dress for a photo shoot. It was just basically practical. How do you get around? You know, you're spending long times driving from one location to another. And so to see Meghan there, I can see 100% how this is entirely a self-serving photo shoot to play philanthropist rather than being a philanthropist. Because if she was really passionate about the work World Vision was doing, I don't see why she could have still been an ambassador as a royal. But as soon as she got engaged to Harry, she dropped them like a hot potato. And it goes to show again that Meghan does not do charity to help others. She's only interested.
So after looking at all of these claims together, one thing is clear. This story is about far more than money, titles, or one particular royal disagreement. The bigger issue is trust. The reports discussed in this video paint a picture of relationships that became increasingly strained, with disagreements over finances, family expectations, public statements, and the way private matters were handled in the public eye. But it is also important to remember that many of these details come from books, sources, and reported accounts, so viewers should always separate documented facts from claims and interpretations. What makes this story especially interesting is the contrast between the public image and the private picture being described. The royal family has always operated under enormous public pressure, but once trust breaks down inside a family, repairing that relationship can become incredibly difficult. There is also a positive lesson here. Regardless of which side you support, family relationships, respect, communication, and personal responsibility matter far more than money, status, or public attention. Once those things are lost, no amount of fame or wealth can easily replace them. And now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe these latest revelations change the way we should look at Harry and Meghan's relationship with the royal family? Do you think the reports about money and family tensions explain why the relationship became so damaged? Or do you think there is another side to the story that isn't being told? Let me know your opinion in the comments. I read the comments, and your perspective could be the subject of our next discussion. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more analysis of the latest royal family developments, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And if you found this video interesting, give it a like. It really helps the channel reach more people. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.